Greetings, fellow RPG geeks. How's it going? Sorry for the lack of posting, but my voice hasn't been so hot lately, so it's starting to come back. I think I have my voice back all the way now, so I figured I'd post another video. I want to talk a little bit about GM burnout, or DM burnout, or storyteller burnout, depending on what system you use. I know with myself, it's affected several of my groups, several of my games. I've run a lot of play-by-post games online, and I've had to kill some of them because of GM burnout. I have a gaming club that I go to, and I've burned out fairly often. I think that's probably one of the biggest killers of my games. Although sometimes it has a lot to do with the players not showing up, attendance, and other reasons. But so GM burnout, what is it? What burns you out? For me, I find that I tend to run games for players that really want to run a certain game. It might not necessarily be my favorite game, and therefore, because of that, during like preparation time, I find that I don't really enjoy it because it's not the system that I enjoy. So I want to keep my players happy, but if you're a GM, you have to keep yourself happy. You have to keep yourself having fun, and especially with, like, for me, I burned out, like burnt to a crisp on Dungeons and Dragons, like 3rd 3.5. I ran, I think, 3 campaigns. I had a Monday group for a long time, and I was the host. It was actually in my apartment. So it was kind of said that I was kind of the default GM if nobody else wanted to run. And there were 6 other players, and I did have a couple other people run. I think one campaign, the one guy did, and that guy did. He did one campaign too. But other than that, it was me. So it always kind of was on my shoulders to, entertain everyone essentially. And granted, I do spend a lot of time on preparation, probably too much time. But like I said, if you're running a crunchy game, in my experience, it seems like you have to do more preparation. Because a player will ask you a question, like, oh, well, how's that work? Or you describe this thing, but in the player's handbook it says differently. Whatever the case may be. So they would ask all these questions, and I wouldn't know. I was used to running rules light games where if they asked me a question, I just reached out, pulled it out of my butt, and gave them whatever answer I thought would work with the story, and then we'd move on. So I don't know. So for me, I just a real little note card here. Running games is work. It can be enjoyable work and it can be unenjoyable work. I know when I was doing a lot of the preparation for Dungeons and Dragons, I enjoy fantasy, but just the system after a while, especially at high levels, it just killed me. Running a game can be very demanding creativity. Using your creative mind all the time can wear you down. I mean, you can have writer's block where you can't come up with anything that you think is interesting. Now, sometimes I know with myself, things that I would find interesting aren't necessarily the same as what the players would find interesting. Things that I think would be boring, I'd actually do in a game and they'd have a blast with it. So knowing your group is very important for what kind of prep work you want to do, but I don't know. Just some other things. Being a GM, you have to buy stuff. I got lots of books, but I enjoy buying RPGs, but if you're running a certain game, the players, I play with a lot of groups where the players don't even buy the game that we're playing. I'm the only one that has a rule book. So sometimes I have to buy 2 of the same game just so I have like a table copy and a GM copy. Running a game takes up a lot of your free time. And again, this can be a good and a bad thing. If you're bored a lot, you don't really have that much going on, it's kind of nice to have the fallback of, oh, well, I'm bored. It's a Thursday night. I'm going to work on my campaign. So, for a couple hours, you sit down and you come up with any ideas or concepts you want to use in the next session, But sometimes it can be bad, especially if you don't have time. If you're working 2 jobs, or you have kids, or your wife's complaining that you're not spending enough time with her. It's kind of hard to do your prep work when all that's going on. So I find that real life can be a real damper on your gaming, especially if you're running a game. Because a player, you can have all that stuff. You don't have to prep anything. You show up, you have fun, and then you leave. The GM has to try to weave the plots together, try to keep people from killing each other in the party, and maybe sometimes tell people to calm down and not bicker so much at the table. Some other things is running what you enjoy. Personally, I'm kind of strange. I think I'm a player, but I really enjoy world building, and I really enjoy tinkering with RPG mechanics and house rolling things. So as a player, yeah, I can world build and tinker, but no one's going to see it. If I'm a GM and I'm world building and tinkering, at least people are going to have to interact with it, and I get to test out what I'm doing. So I think for me, the biggest thing I like about running a game is world building, and basically taking a system, whatever system it is, and tweaking it, or making GM fiat rules on the fly if they're not covered. But I usually put out my house rules at the beginning of the campaign, so everybody knows how everything works. So if you are starting to get burned out, can someone else take over for you? In some gaming groups, they just don't want to. I'm kind of amazed that people are intimidated by running games, I think. And like I said, it's demanding, but it's very unfair to kind of be the lazy player that always shows up and never runs a game. The person that spends all the time running the game and basically is entertaining you for years, don't you think it's time, someone like that should step up and try to run a game, even if they're terrible? You give the person that always is running a game a break. Maybe even like a one-shot game of just a system that maybe the people would never play before. Like if you're in a D&D game, maybe run a Call of Cthulhu, or be something BRP, or like Serenity, or whatever the case may be, just something a little bit different. Or you can run a mini campaign. Just say, hey, probably about 3-4 sessions. It'll give the main GM a break and let somebody else sit in the chair for a little bit. If you are a GM and you're getting burned out, try to figure out what you like and focus on that. So I really enjoy world building, but I found that sometimes I can world build too much, in too much detail about the places that they'll never go to. Someone introduced me to a thing called spiral world building, where you make stuff, but you don't put it on the map. So the map is kind of like a gray fuzzy thing until the players move into that area, and then you use. So you can make like a tower, you can make a strange culture, or a strange religion, or a cult, and they're just kind of floating in the ether until the players bump into them. So that's actually kind of cut down on my GM prep time, is world building that way. Or just come up with some interesting culture that you like, and then waiting to place them on the map until they get there. Don't leave prep time until the very end. Don't procrastinate. And if you are procrastinating, it probably already shows you that you're starting to feel some of the burnout already. Try to work on it a little bit at a time, because working on it last minute, you're gonna have more shoddy work, and sometimes you just don't do it. So you show up to a game unprepared, and that's stressful because you have to come up with stuff on the fly. I like doing that in rules-like games, or crunchy games. It's kind of a nightmare. Take GM breaks. Players go to the bathroom or whatever. Feel free, if you're a smoker, go out and smoke, or get something to eat, or even just take a 10-minute break if someone asks you a question you don't know how to answer, and just kind of think of things and kind of relax. Take a few deep breaths. So, and something like I said, I usually do too much prep, and I can actually get burned out before I even run a game, which is kind of strange. Like before the first session, I'll just do so much thinking that I can't really think, or I can't really. It's like I get burned out before I even start because I'm putting too much work into it. So don't burn yourselves out, or try not to, even before you start. Try to stay organized. Index cards, wikis, free websites. Have players, or delegate authority to players to help you out. I just try not to stress too much. Try to enjoy it. It's fun. Thanks.